Hey, I'm Zach Kay, and I'm joined by Hank Atherton and Ian Forrester. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me and us.
It's kinda nice to talk to you in a quiet space that's not, like, an extremely loud venue.
We've only ever really had conversations at shows we've played together, which are a handful and kind of more than I would expect, considering we were from different towns. You and Male Gaze are based up in Seattle, and I'm down here in Portland. But it is nice to just get to have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And Ian, your band is Of Wires. You're also
Ooh.
in Portland, and I saw you play somewhat recently. But you've known Hank for a long time. Tell me more about this, because you've both kind of alluded to it.
The legacy. I mean, Hank and I went to grade school together for a time, so it all started
Yeah.
when we were, like, 12 or 13, maybe? I'm not.
Yeah, no, I mean, unironically, I think the first time I ever played drums with other people for real was at a, like, spring camp for our, like, elementary school where Ian and, like, one of was it Kalen or somebody? I don't remember who. You guys were gonna do, like,
Yeah.
performance of some song, and you guys were practicing, and I was like, "Can I play?"
Yeah, how strange. I think back upon those times frequently as they were such an informative time on, like, what being a band and how it all is supposed to start, and you have no fucking idea what's going on.
Yeah, that's
So
Um, yeah.
this was like a music camp through your elementary school?
no, so our elementary program would do 2 camps a year, so we'd have, like, a fall camp and a spring camp where the entire school of, like, I don't know, a couple like, 100 kids or whatever
Nice.
we would all go out to, uh, some campground somewhere. Sometimes it was, like, Fort Worden National Park, there
Yeah.
was, like, Rainbow Lake, these were all, like, around Western Washington. And all the kids would go, all of the teachers would go, and a bunch of parents would go as volunteers. And
Yeah.
part of the deal was doing these mini classes where you'd sign up to do like an hour long class taught by a parent, usually on X, Y, and Z thing. Like there was like a choir one or like African drumming and arts and crafts kind of stuff. But there was always a talent show at every single one. And yeah, I mean, I remember specifically, I don't remember where it was, I think it might have been Fort Worden, but there was a talent show where Ian and a couple of friends were going to play a song, and that's the one that was like really formative for me because it was really like the first time I got to play music with my peers because I grew up playing music with my grandpa and his friends, and so it was
Mhm.
very different to be like, oh wait, distorted guitars, here we go, I can play loud.
Yeah, and that was probably the first time that I had ever played in front of a crowd like that with music, which a crowd was just being like families and parents, but like 30 or 40 people maybe, sitting down in metal chairs, kind of just watching some kids. We were, doing something. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the bug stuck for sure in
Yeah,
in that. I think it
Yeah.
was I feel like I remember it being like Rainier, like somewhere near Mount Rainier
yeah, that sounds right.
in that case. I don't know the name of that park though, but
I think we only went there like that 1 year.
I think it was only that 1 year, and that was my ninth, maybe 8th or ninth grade. No, I don't
No, we were
remember.
younger than that because I
No,
was.
it was younger, yeah. The
Yeah, sorry.
time
This program continued through to high school. It ended with junior high, and so but it was a long time ago. Obviously, we both don't remember super well.
A long time ago, for sure. But Ian, you mentioned it was formative to how you think about being in a band and playing music with people. Tell me more about that.
well, getting together with 3 or 4 other human beings and deciding what to do with your instruments over a length of time that dictates a song. There's a lot of personalities in there, even as a 13-year-old, around who wants to do what and what the song is where it's supposed to go and what part I want to perform. And even then, I remember combating with the egos of teenagers without a lot of filters. And I think that was probably a big, I gotta say informative again, I suppose, but the practice of collaboration and how important it is, like, to take care of each other in that moment, but, also in some cases stand up for what you want, what vision you may have and where those lines may cross or, you know, uh, stand unwavering, I suppose.
Yeah,
Um,
and also, which you kind of alluded to already, what the song wants, which is another
mm,
entity almost, right? That is separate from from the egos or the internal desires of the people in the room. Hank, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I mean, that is like the fundamental thing that I think even musicians well into their adulthood have a hard time with, because there's that point of like, what is physically fun for me to play, or what am I deriving enjoyment out of in like a specific part, but then also like countering on like, well, okay, but what is actually good for the song? Like,
Right.
what is actually benefiting the song, and what is distracting from like the core, like the through line of what the song is trying to say or do.
And I don't think any of us at that age had a concept of what you just said.
Yeah,
You know, like we
absolutely
were
not.
learning our instrument and just like, I want to play this lead right
Yeah.
here. And
I want to turn all my pedals on.
yeah, and Jared's like, well, I want to play this riff and it's good. And I don't like that lead over that riff. And then you're just like, but I want to play my guitar too, you know? And
Yeah, yeah,
I think it was good to have an exercise of that. You know, I think a lot of teenagers get that out of their system, or maybe embedded in their systems in sports, maybe, or in other activities that like teach them about the rest of their lives. But I think for me, and it seems like for Hank too, it was so nice to have that at a young age to play with in a community setting where, like, yeah, you could learn and make mistakes and kind of like run into situations that you wouldn't get to otherwise until you're in your 20s trying to start a band maybe for the first time in
yeah.
college or in the city whenever.
Well, and I think that like that sense of community and like being a part of it is really important, and something that I think a lot of young musicians don't have an opportunity to do. And so when
No.
they try and start their first band, they're contending with this like individualism that you develop when you like first when you're learning something on your own. Like you only know how to play with yourself, and then learning how to play with others is like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And you know, playing with guitarists who don't have like a good idea of like tempo or like meter is like a very common thing, and I'm sure you guys have all been in those situations where it's like, yeah, I mean, like you're technic like you've got something, but like you can't count. That's
Yeah.
like a thing you learn. But I also think like back to like the sports analogy, I mean, like so much of sports and like so much of like American culture is about like this individual exceptionalism, and I think that transfers into music and how we think about like the role of a musician. And a lot of that is just you like when you're playing in a band, you have to check that ego. And like there are some people, you know, there are positions in the band, like being the front person, who you part of your job is to be bigger than the rest of the band to a certain extent. And but like you can't like let that control the process too. So that's the hard balance. But being in a band is about like putting that ego aside, and like figuring out how to compromise and work with each other, because that's where like the actual magic of the band happens.
Yeah. It takes a lot of practice and work
Yeah.
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean, it has for me anyway, even having that experience. But,
I'm
Yeah.
still figuring it out.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure we all are, right? And that's, or at least I should hope that we all think we are, because otherwise, maybe there's more ego in this room than I thought there was.
I mean, it's all there, right? I mean, without it, some of the art wouldn't be possible. But I mean,
For
Yeah.
sure.
it's a constant learning and rechecking, and even now, and it's humbling, you know. And I
Yeah, for
look
sure.
back more fondly on those years, and with more like, dang, I didn't know what I had those years in options and spectrum, and those alternative schools that provided this community experience in the arts that we're referencing so much of right now. And I look back with such reverence because I'm like, wow, I probably wouldn't be half the person I am today if I didn't get to play around in that and learn, like, wow, I love this, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So thanks for the trip and the help remembering some of that, Hank.
Yeah, dog.
I
Yeah,
feel like
dog.
you
I mean,
remember
like,
more about it than I do.
I mean, well, I was reflecting on, because I was talking to some of my bandmates about like doing this podcast. I'm like, yeah, I'm like gonna be on a podcast with Ian Forrester, and they were like, what? I'm like, yeah, him and I go so far back, it's crazy. Like, and like our musical lives have intersected at so many points. Like, I think our individual bands have like played with each other at like almost every part of our musical career, minus like my time being away from the Northwest,
Yeah.
obviously. But like, I think every band we had been in is like had crossed paths at some
Found a
point.
way. It's
Which,
beautiful. It's really
yeah,
beautiful, frankly.
it's wild. We live in, you know, a big city effectively, or you know, I guess, you know, you've moved away now, but like it's a big city with like a ton of music. Like you're not starved for artistic expression in this region. And
Even
just
now, though, a big city, but my nephew is hitting me up on the internet saying that this band, Male Gaze and him, are trying to work out some shows, and he wants to. Have you,
who's your nephew?
Dylan? Oh man, I have to look up his band name right now because I'm having some brain fog. But yeah, you're talking to my nephew.
That's that's crazy.
I
That
thought you knew. I thought you knew.
I did not know make that connection.
Oh goodness.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Okay.
While you're looking that up, Ian, this
yeah.
kind of hints at something that Hank, you've talked to me about many times in the conversations we've had, which is how important it is to have a scene, and it's the community of being in a band, but even broader, right? And
Hmm.
even in a town like Seattle or Portland, where there are so many bands, it still feels like a pretty small community. And you specifically said something about how important it is to foster a healthy scene, and I'm interested in digging into what that means to you, both in what is a healthy scene and how does one foster it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what a healthy scene looks like is a space where it is okay to fail. So what I mean by that is every kid who wants to be in a band is going to have a terrible first band, and a healthy scene is going to allow that to happen and like let them get better. I remember in my first like real band in high school, that space was the Charleston, and it still is in a lot of ways, where like we just happened to catch it right when it first opened in like 2006 or 2007 or 8 or sometime. But like that space allowed us to play our first like real show that wasn't like at an Eagles Hall down the street or whatever, and like meet other bands that were older, more established, had experience, and like learn from them. Like, what does it mean to have show etiquette? What does it mean to, craft a good set list? What does it mean to engage with the crowd in a way that's like meaningful and approachable to people who don't know who you are? And like having those mentors built into your scene is really, really important because like uh, bands come and go all the time, but if you continue to have like this rotating like investment in the future of your like local music, it's going to pay dividends because you're just going to instill this like better culture over time. And now, you still have that. Like I routinely try to book bands on my shows that are like younger or just getting started,
Mm,
just to give them that opportunity to play in front of a bunch of people and like learn what that's like, because that's how I got into it. Was somebody who was older than me took enough of an interest in what we were doing, or had the same philosophy of like you have to invest in the next wave of bands. And
mhm,
like that's really important to me. I think like a really good example of that is Jason Clackley, who when I was 16 kind of was a big deal in the DIY space, and now he helps, like I think he's like one of the creative coordinators for the Vera project in Seattle,
mm,
which is like a super well established all ages venue in the Seattle Center, like underneath the Space Needle. But like his philosophy has always been working with kids and enabling them to do music and like build up the scene, because like his philosophy was investing in the future, or that was the way I understood it.
mhm.
I haven't talked to him in a very long time, but that was like the biggest takeaway for me, was just like, oh, it's like our responsibility as older punks to make sure the kids are all right, and like giving them the space to figure it out. So that's what I mean by like having a healthy scene and fostering it, is yeah, giving opportunities, creating spaces where it's okay to fail and learn and be better, and like be comfortable experimenting and trying new stuff and like making cool things constantly.
Yeah. I think that is such a great takeaway and such a good narrative for how just to foster healthy people in general. And it's interesting always talking about punks trying to foster healthy people because, the concept is like the punks are so this or that and anti establishment. But it's like, I think they more often look at the world and say, this isn't good enough. We need to take matters into our own hands.
Yeah, the establishment isn't taking care of people. Okay, let's take care of people and let's just do it ourselves.
Well, like antisocial doesn't mean like anti people, it just means anti like societal norms. It's not about not having community. Community is incredibly important to
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, and I loved just the word mentorship that you used there. It's something that's on my mind a lot as I get older, just like how impactful that is to people, even me now, but, you know, having someone to look up to and look towards for improvement or guidance or reassurance or forgiveness, whatever the case
Yeah,
may
I
be.
mean that's all so important.
Yeah, and not just, Hank, you said most people's first bands are gonna be terrible, and that's certainly true. I was in terrible
Oh
Hey,
bands,
yeah, we
here.
all were.
plural. But even most bands that get good eventually suck at first, right? Like, your first
Mhm.
show is rarely good, you're still figuring it out, and it takes time to build both a stage show that is compelling and also a musical sound and paradigm that is unique and is worth staying in for longer. I mean,
Uh-huh.
for Combo Box, we have so many songs that we wrote either early in the band or in the first year or so, and we're still a relatively new band, but that we just don't play anymore. And it's not because we think they're necessarily bad songs, although some of them aren't thrilling, but because it just doesn't fit where we feel like we are going and where we feel like we are best and how we can perform best both on stage and then also deliver an experience to an
Mhm.
audience.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I used to joke that like a band's first EP is like fulfilling all of their genre influences, and the second one is where they come into their own.
sure. Always, there's the experiment of sort of like learning how to say what you want to say and then refining with repetition how to kind of get that core communication out the door.
Yeah.
I always think that's communication, I suppose, but go on.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I mean, all art is communication in one way or
Mm.
another, right? But Ian, your band put out your first EP this year, a few months ago. Say more about that. Does it fall into Hank's assessment? Do you have all of
Yeah,
your genre influences in it?
actually, I mean, not all of them, I suppose, but yeah, that EP, it's definitely like the business card. It feels a little bit like, and I want to say simple or like sterile in any sense of the word, but like a lot of those songs were written by me in a demo situation, and it's how I used those songs to sort of find the people I play with now.
Yeah.
I was unconvinced that I was going to be in a band again. I was picking up equipment that I had had laying around for a while, and I had invested in some recording equipment. And I was like, well, I'm going to start playing and demoing just for my own enjoyment because I had moved to Portland and I didn't really know anybody. I mean, I wasn't going to shows. I wasn't doing anything anymore like I used to. Um, and so, yeah, this feeling of like, what do I actually want to do? And do I don't care if anybody's listening or not now. Like, and part of that is also getting older. So, some of the genre influences that I've always cared about over the last few years, certainly I think came through, like, I mean, Fugazi's always been in there, but I've gotten into Mets a ton over the last like 5 years. And some of my like hardcore friends will be like, I don't like Mets. And so I, start this band, but I kind of hide the fact that I like Mets because I guess they're too popular with the hardcore kids that I was kicking it with. And I felt insecure about that. But in this setting with these bands, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write a Mets song in my, like Ian's version of a Mets song. And the song that's, you're probably, I think Idiot Box is the song I sent for this podcast. Was literally like, this is my Mets song. And then, it turned into whatever it turned into in its own way. And I used it to recruit some friends who were like, hey, you know what, this is good. And let's translate this. Um, and then I have my True Widow song on the record, on the EP. And then, the Hot Snake song on the EP. Not so much like directly, like I'm going to write a True Widow and a Hot Snake song, but yeah, it was kind of like, the best friends I had in that moment of writing were those bands I listened to. So yeah, I let them kind of tell me what to do in that case.
Yeah.
Where in Dirty Dirty back, in Seattle, when I was in that band for 6 years, by the end of it, I was actively trying to avoid influences to try to chase some idea of like genuine, authentic music, which has its merits for sure, but I don't know that it fulfilled me quite as much as kind of just serving where I was coming from.
Yeah, and authentic is always a loaded term when it comes to art or any kind of expression.
It's a dangerous word to get attached to. You start questioning what authenticity is for you, and then it's kind of like a feedback loop or a shame spiral of some kind. Yeah, like I don't think you end up ever really finding it once you start putting a magnifying glass on it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from just the idea of like I don't know, there's like a shame factor to like saying, oh, this song is influenced by this band, or like this is my, and
Yeah.
that's like I almost, not exclusively, but like I've spent a lot of time writing with like that in mind, where I'm starting from an idea of like I'm inspired by this band, I'm going to write a
Mm.
song about that. And what ends up happening pretty much every time is, rather than being like a one-to-one copy, it's like chasing the feeling that that band is giving me in that moment, or like what that feeling that sound is giving me in that moment, rather than like being a one-to-one influence. And like that's definitely given me the mental space to be like, no, this is like still like it's a derivative work, but it's not derivative, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, the attitude people can give you for like copying something, or like, oh, this band just sounds like blank or whatever. It's like, I think I had this thought, this sort of something that pretty simple mindset that shifted in the last few years, where I'm like, well, just picking up a guitar and I'm copying somebody. Just the simple act of playing a D minor into like a F or something is a copy of something. But what it is about me moving through this world will make it unique. And it's okay to emulate 100%,
Well,
even
yeah.
shamelessly to a degree.
Well, and we also like I don't know. At this point, I think both of us have really developed a voice, right? Like
Mm.
even if we're pulling from a specific influence or a specific place, like we inject our voice into it in ways that we can't really fully quantify. Like I definitely have a way that I structure
You do.
songs, and I have a way that I think about writing guitar parts and like layering things that is like, I mean, I'm not going to say like unique, but like it is part of my voice, that like even if I'm trying to directly copy something, it's like really hard. Like I can't, actual copying is really difficult.
Yeah.
It actually is. I think it's almost a job in itself. And you're right. Well put. Like I think there is also a sense of like confidence and self-awareness that comes with the really, not the realization, but the copying people, and that, letting that part of the creative process be okay, in emulation also. And that, like, yeah, I have a voice and
Mhm.
I've put in some hours into this, and the way it's going to come out is still going to be, unique in my way, and it's going to be what I want it to sound like.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, and then like you bring it to the band, and then they get their take at it too, and then suddenly
Yeah.
it's a collage where like, yeah, maybe it started off as like the Mets song, but at the end of the day, it's the Of Wire song now, because
Yeah.
everybody's put their little spin on it, even if it's
Yeah.
just like tweaking a bass part a little bit, or like putting in like changing the fill on drum part a little bit. All of these things add up.
I know Andres is going to come in with a drum amalgamation that isn't, that's the part of it too. The egos collect and work in unison,
Hmm.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and another part of it too is that all art exists in context, and the way that it is heard, the way that music is heard by a listener, is only in the context of other music that they have heard before, right? And I see this a lot when people will come up to me at a show and say, "Oh, your band is so great. You remind me of XYZ."
Yeah,
And whatever band they say we remind them of has very little to do with what we actually sound like, and a lot to do with what they listen to and feelings that they have associated with music that they have heard in the past that then they are kind of hearing again. I imagine you've had similar experiences, both of you.
absolutely.
yeah, for sure. There's a couple that have been recurring where it's like, if you listen to our older stuff, it's like, oh well, yeah. And then if you listen to like my older work, especially like my solo project from 2015, like it's like, oh okay, yeah, I get where you're coming from, like saying we sound like Weezer or whatever. I'm like, I mean, I know I do, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to hear you've told me a story about sounding like Weezer in the past, Hank, that I would love to get you to tell again. But first, I'd love for us to listen to Idiot Box by Of Wires off EP1.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to play the track, and we can all enjoy it.
I am really proud of that intro guitar sound.
It's a cool lick.
Is it DI? It sounds really cool, like just gnarly.
it's funny on these little speakers. It's all the snare is flying.
I do love the layered feedback. That is like so close to my heart.
The which
Yeah.
one?
Layered feedback. Man, that made my heart real happy.
That's great to hear. Yeah, listening back to something I've done is always this anxiety feeling listening to people listen to
Just like
recordings
watching in
of,
real time.
yeah, I'm new in the last year to like producing our own recordings, and it's listening to a recording that I've recorded and mixed. It's like it's so hard to be biased and just enjoy it. And not to say that I didn't just now, but the further away I get from that song, the more in all of the EP, I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a minute. Like you have to like step away from listening to it for like a couple months and then come back and be like, oh wait, this is actually like good. Actually, like
Yeah.
this is not as bad as I like made it out in my head.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it made my heart really happy because like I've listened to your music for like the majority of my life at this point. Like I've heard all of the different stages of your songwriting, and like it's cool to hear that your voice has like maintained through all this time. Like that, it's like very clear to me. It's like, oh, this is absolutely an Ian riff and like an Ian vocal part. Like every single part of it is like, oh yeah, this is like for sure an Ian band. It's cool. It's cool to hear that like over time I can just recognize it like immediately. Because you have a very distinct style and voice to how you put together songs and melodies and like where your voice sits on top of what you're doing. And then you also have this ear for how to make noise that is equal parts upsetting and really nice. Like just taking, your pedals and like your instrument and your amp and like using those to make a texture that is like weird and fun. I don't know. It's always been something I've like really appreciated about like your writing.
Oh, thank you.
That's also something that really stood out to me when I saw you play. Before I had listened to any of the record, when I saw you live, that was just the noise textures and the sound design element of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it's something I'm always pushing for. I'm always worried about being too clean. I think the voice is like, I like to sing. My mother was a singer, and so I think a lot of that influence I just came from the womb, if you will. But yeah, where can I fit in the chaos and the mess? And I listen to other bands like Henry's even and like Guck, and I'm like, God, we're not fucking weird enough, we're not noisy enough or something. I listen back to that EP and I'm like, oh, it's too clean. Again, I'm glad. It's really meaningful to hear you guys say that. Thank you. Like,
It's a great track, both in the songwriting and the production. I was thinking about how great the snare sounded when we were just listening through. It's big, it's got the crack, it really cuts through the mix, and that's something that I always listen for in a mix is just how does the snare sound, and
mm,
it really sounds great in that track.
See, for me, it's all about the bass. Like, how does the bass sound for me is
Mm.
like a huge thing, especially in heavy music.
yeah,
Because this is like a hill I'll die on, but like most hardcore and punk music production just absolutely shits the bed when it comes to the bass. Like, it'll be, yeah, they'll like do a big like high pass filter and like cut out all the sub for some reason. Like all you
Oh.
hear is like the kick and then like kind of a crunchy top end, and like the crunchy top end is nice, but like where heaviness comes from is the bass, and if you cut the bass out, like Metallica and Saint Anger or something like that, like it's not going to sound good. And so
no,
like in every record I listen to that's like a heavy record, like the first thing I like key in on is like, how does the bass sound? Like, are you able to hear the top end of the bass, and is the low end big enough to like
mhm.
carry the feeling, like the weight of what's happening? And like yeah, the bass tone on this was really, really great. Like, good job on that.
Good job on Ben. That's his amp, and once he tracked it, it was wonderful because he plays through a 15-inch speaker, which I'm not used to playing out of in all my years with bass, and he
Really?
tracked, yeah, a 15-inch acoustic with a horn, and
I
it's a
love those.
single speaker cab, and he tracked it, and it just like fit. And of course, there's some EQing and compression in typical production fashion, but it just fit, and it was really nice. The drums and bass are so important, and in Dirty Dirty, I was doing bass and drums in that band exclusively. So I feel like coming into this one as a guitar player and a singer, I get this reflection of years thinking about bass tone and saying like, I want my band to have this energy, this bass and drum forward energy, and I want to fit guitar in here in like in a new fun way. At least for myself, it's not new to the system of rock and roll, but I'm glad that it is hidden for you, my guy.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I approach it like really the same way for male gaze, where
Mhm.
like when I'm writing demos, like I'm writing, like I have like a guitar part that's like the hook idea that like kind of gets me going on it, but like the song doesn't become a song to me until I have the bass and the drums in there. Cause like for me,
Foundation.
that's like the identity of like what's happening. Like, especially with like, I don't know, we come from like a shoegazy background in terms of like what our sound is and our like established brand is, quote unquote. But like at the end of the day, like shoegaze is just washed out guitar. Like it doesn't matter. Like the things that are driving like shoegaze classics are the drums and the bass at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Like it's it's like having a hot fudge sundae where like the guitar is the hot fudge, but like it doesn't, you don't want just hot fudge. Like the hot fudge sundae needs to have that vanilla ice cream. Otherwise it's just hot chocolate.
No, you're right.
And
I
hot
was
chocolate sucks. Nobody wants that.
Yeah. You heard it here, folks.
I think the greats and the people who succeed, at least in their craft in this genre, I think they follow a similar fundamental truth. Like I was just listening to John Reese talk about this. If you don't know, a San Diego hardcore, post-hardcore legend in his 50s now, but he did Hot Snakes and Drive Like Jehu and all that. But the whole the beginning of Drive Like Jehu, I heard him talking about was like they needed to get this particular rhythm section because he was a guitar player and Rick Froberg was a guitar player and a singer. But they understood that the serious fundamentals were what was going to be needed so that they could like build off that and create texture and create this emotional width. But I think the academics know that bassist and that drummer are without them, this is just a mess, you know.
Yeah. Without
Yeah.
them, it's just, acoustic death cab for cutie,
No kid. No
which is
kid.
great. No shade. I prefer acoustic death cab, but like,
No. I feel so thankful for my rhythm section. And yeah, and the years I spent being a rhythm section, and there was some years here in Portland too that I started playing bass with bands and kind of just trying to like be a more of a supporting role and stuff. And I think it's really good for musicians to play every part a little bit so that when they do come to the project and they realize, yeah, I might be the singer, but that doesn't mean I'm the most important person here. kind of push back on what we were started the conversation around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, taking time at other instruments is really important for like developing an appreciation for like all the other aspects of songwriting, for
Mm.
sure.
And you mentioned something a little bit ago about comparing yourself to other bands, and that's something you'd mentioned to me before about how that comparison is often a source of not necessarily struggle, but it is a perhaps a negative influence on the journey of being a creative person and also being a band logistically. Tell me more about your thoughts on that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, piggybacking off of also the other subject of like allowing influences to come in, which is kind of a form of comparison, even in itself. It's almost like an acceptance of comparison, maybe. But I mean, I suffer, and maybe many artists do, I would imagine, from the constant information plugging into our lives through the internet. And the comparison factor, even just, so and so just bought a house. What the fuck am I doing with my life? It can really be a buzzkill. And that's one of the biggest struggles I feel as a musician. Like the finances are one thing and the logistics are one thing. But the thing that stunts the work really is the feeling like you're not good enough. And I think when looking at other people's lives and other bands and their promo or their shows or just the reception or the comments they get on something, it's important for me to remember that it's not a part of my journey. The comparing, it can be very like a vampire almost.
Yeah, it's the thief of joy, as they say, and it is. And I think that's something we all know, but that doesn't necessarily make it easier to not do it. I certainly catch myself looking at other bands in town and saying, "Wow, they packed that room. Why can't we do that?" And then the next thought isn't necessarily don't compare yourself. It's like, "Oh, well, they've been a band for 10 years and we've only been 2 years." And that's not even helpful either because as you said, it's not my journey. It's a different journey and there's no value to be assessed out of that comparison.
No, I mean, especially on the internet, which is so much information is coming in, and most of that is just an ad campaign to get you to believe something is incredible.
Yeah.
And, you must consume it, you must take it because you're not worthwhile unless you are a part of this incredible thing or buying this incredible thing. And I think that's where a lot of the emotional and creative sort of like ruminations of my current project is sort of combating a lot of that energy and saying like, no, this is happening. Whether I think it's worth it or not, whether you think
Yeah.
it's worth it or not, this needs to happen. My moment here with you, our moment, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of this pressure for everyone, but also for bands to post only your highlights and have your social media be only your highlight
Oh,
reel
right. I mean,
because you think about that as your press, and I think that's
all of
to
it.
the
Just
detriment even of bands to not allow themselves to show their struggles or their vulnerability or that it is hard. Like, yeah, okay, we played a sold out show at the Chuck with Hank's band a couple of weeks ago, but most shows are not like that and it's still a struggle to fill the calendar in the way that you want to fill the calendar and recording music is hard but we don't talk about those things because we're all conditioned to only show the highlights, make it seem like it is something incredible that people need to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, like I mean that shows a good example because like yeah, we played this Halloween show that sold out at the Charleston, which was like incredible, and like
yeah,
literally the next week
that's right.
we went to Tequila and played a show for 5 people. So like, I mean, this this is the highs and lows of it.
Road.
Yeah, right. Like
This was
I
like
drove 40 minutes to play, the Charleston. I drove an hour and a half to play Tequila for 5 people.
yeah.
And like the bands we played with were lovely. And so it was still a fun time and got to meet, a couple of new faces that I hadn't met before, which was cool. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's just, those are the struggles. And like, you can definitely film your stories and your reels to make it look like it's a more intense show than it is, but like, and that's a hard thing, right? But I guess there's a point of like what feels appropriate to share, right? And like where is the venue for that sharing meant to be, right? Like I think there is something to be said for like, your Instagram page and your TikToks and your whatever is being like your press reel, right? Because that's where all that's happening now, for better or
Yeah.
worse. And it's like, well, okay, what's the space to talk about those struggles? And what does that look like? And how do people engage with that?
Especially if you're trying to get industry attention and you wanna look like you have momentum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Because like that's the thing. Like people take you seriously based off of these metrics, which like are frustratingly difficult to organically grow, but incredibly easy to inflate and like cheat if you want to, which
Yeah.
like that, but then it's like hollow. So like who really cares at that point? I don't know. It's wild. Like the way music marketing has changed, or the way music has changed in general to become more significantly more accessible to more
Mhm.
people in a lot of ways, but also has become gate kept by like virality in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I wonder how if it's even harder now than it was, not knowing really how it was, but our generation kind of consumed and witnessed an industry that was dying and changed into the social media virality that you're speaking about now.
Yeah. I think we often forget in these conversations how short the history of recorded music really is.
Right.
And it's a 100-year or less kind of time span, and all of the eras were really short. Like the MTV era,
It's like what,
Yeah.
10
20
years?
years maybe,
Yeah.
not even. And so right now we're in the social media era, and we look back on the MTV era fondly because that's kind of where we grew up in. But I'm not personally convinced that it was easier.
I don't think it was easier, but I do think there is something to be said for like, I don't know, especially like the days where every town had a vinyl pressing plant. Like
Yeah,
getting physical music out was significantly less prohibitively expensive in
yeah,
like the 70s or whatever. You know, like I don't know, like I found an old record in my mom's collection that was from like this band that like barely did anything out of like California. They just like, you know, pressed their first record as like kind of a joke. And I ended up finding it like later on Bandcamp because they decided to get back together in like 2022, which is crazy. But it's
wow,
like, okay, like, you know, like I dream about making vinyl now, but like it's insanely expensive. And with where we're at as a band, it's like, okay, well, I have to, you know, think about the opportunity cost of that, of like, okay, is it worth dropping 3 grand into a run where we might sell only 25% of them? Like,
yeah.
Mhm. I've been there. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's tough.
it's hard.
The trade-off, I guess, is that now my friends in Europe can hear my recorded music, where
Right.
before the internet, they couldn't,
And
unless I
there
did press vinyl and mailed it, which was prohibitive in its own way.
Yeah.
right. You don't have to be in a city, you don't have to be in a metropolitan or a highly you don't have to even play any shows. The internet is the biggest stage in the world, and anybody can
Yeah,
access from their living room.
yeah,
And the benefits of that are on paper, like unprecedented and outstanding.
Yeah. I mean, we played with a band like last March that started off in this, you know, their front person was like 16 or 17,
Mhm.
and they just started posting songs they were making in their bedroom to TikTok when they were like 15, and they're, you know, they were headlining a full West Coast tour over their spring break from high school, you know, and like we
wow,
played with them and they packed a room with like 250 kids. And that's wild to me that that's like a thing that can just happen. But I do have to wonder, like, you know, what the knock on effects of that kind of like I think there's like this weird expectation now where it's like, oh, you do a thing and then you go viral and then you're set. And I wonder if the people who are going through that, you know, he seems like a really nice kid. Like I got to talk to him for a little bit, but like I worry that like, you know, there is like a certain kind of like learning, really important learning that happens from struggling as a musician for a few years. Not that I like wish that struggle on people, but like there are things you learn about being in a band and like what it means to, you know, book a show and like run a show and like, you know, be a good member of the community that doesn't happen if you just go from 0 to 100, right? So I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard for me to quantify that. Like, yeah, especially being in your teens.
yeah.
Yeah. I
I
don't know what I
definitely
would be doing if I like if suddenly like a million people were listening to my music almost overnight. Like, what would I do? I don't know.
doesn't sound all that bad on a lot of levels, but Like,
It's
Oh,
a
so
it's a
now we're
different kind of problem to have.
yeah, yeah,
being
yeah. We're comparing again. We're comparing again. Hold up.
Right. Yeah, well, you're not actually, you're absolutely right. Yeah, comparing a life of sort of, lower underground, bare bones DIY work for handfuls of people at a time to virility in the hundreds of thousands or millions. And what the value of that is really out. It's like crazy to think. It's like thinking about the distance of planets at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're definitely like, crossing oceans and some people are crossing the galaxy.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd trade it though. Like I think for me, like, and going back to like that's not my journey. Like my
Mhm.
journey is, playing music with some of my best friends and making incremental gains when we can and just being a better musician and like manager of like the music and like
Yeah.
learning new things and finding new things to enjoy in the process
Yeah. I like
and
the.
meeting a bunch of people who are just fucking stoked to be there, you know?
Hmm. I've always said that the blue collar, like, I'm here on the ground level, and hopefully the art and the music I sing about and do and connect with are, folks like yourselves included. These are the people I want to know.
Yeah.
You said something really interesting there, Hank, where um, you said being a steward of the music, and that's something that
Mm.
resonated with me, and certainly something I've felt like I've learned over the course of doing combo box, especially as someone who tends to do the administrative stuff for the band, but isn't the main songwriter necessarily. And it's given me this perspective of, oh yeah, okay, music marketing and taking care of booking shows and trying to get press and all those things, it really is, to me, in service of these songs that I believe in and maybe allowed to believe in an easier way because I didn't write them. And I can just say, like, this is a great song. It really deserves to be heard. It deserves all of that. And I think you can and should say that for your own work as well. But it's easier to get there when it's not. You don't feel
Yeah.
as
No,
selfish.
it's really, really hard to write press briefs for my own music. I hate it so much that like I make a Claude or an AI do like the first draft of it and then I revise the hell out of it. Cause
Sure.
like, yeah, I don't know how to talk about myself in a way that's like because like the talking about music within a casual conversation and like talking about my music with friends or in a casual conversation with like say somebody who enjoys it is really really different than talking about it in a way that is meant as like a marketing tool to get like some exec interested in it who might not who probably is
Yeah.
into music but might not be into it, right? There's like a totally different language in music marketing that is completely separate from like how normal people speak. I don't know if that's like that. Maybe that's probably always been the case to a certain extent, but like there is like a corporate voice to music press that is extremely weird and really hard to get into and is really difficult when you are so directly like implicated in the art you're trying to promote. Like
Mhm.
I because I do the bulk of the music writing for this, and so it's like, okay, well, like how much do I talk up X, Y, and Z? Like what feels right? And I don't have a good answer for that, which is why I offshore it to data centers somewhere,
Yeah.
uh, for the most part. But like and that's a thing that like I feel comfortable doing that in terms of like, offloading that because it doesn't feel like authentic to like the band and like the art I'm trying to make anyway. It's just a tool to get some person to engage with it in a way that like is just part of the system or part of the norms of the system, whether or not that's good or bad. Because like, at the end of the day, I want to put my energy into the thing I actually enjoy, which is making the music and making art and making, connections with people. Writing an EPK doesn't do that for me.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to identify that and like, where do I draw the line on what I want, like what administrative work I want to put around this baby of creative like effort and work that I've made.
Yeah, like booking shows, totally down to do that. Putting together like planning out releases and like getting all the files together for like, producing like physical copies of a thing or reaching out to a studio to like book time. Like those are all things I'm like totally comfortable doing and like organizing practices and getting everything all squared away, figuring out logistics. Like I'm all good with that, but yeah, there's the marketing thing is really tough for me, and like the promoting thing and creating like content for the sake of content is really tough for me. Unfortunately, Ash is totally fine doing that, and so I let her handle our Instagram and stuff like that because I don't want to do that at all. It makes me feel icky.
I'm glad you have that support in the band. I mean, it really does take a unit of people with different skills, not just in your instruments, to move something forward beyond even our, beyond our small spaces that we kind of dwell in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in my band in Mississippi, kicking, that was like the way we handled things, which was really really nice. Like, I mean, I didn't do very much in that band because I didn't know many people. I was like not from there, but like our guitarist JD, they're still a band. The guitarist JD, he did like most of the booking. Him and Lacey, their bassist, did a lot of the booking, and then Lacey and Sarah Grace would do like all of the like Instagram promotion and stuff like that. And like
Mm.
basically just like between the three of them, they were able to do all the management of the band stuff. And I basically just like my contribution was I had a drum set and I bought a van, you know. Like, but like that was good. Like dividing that up was really useful because like, yeah, I mean, managing a band is a full-time job if you are doing it appropriately, and like we all have to still put food on the table and like have things to do, and it's like you have to divvy that up, otherwise there are things that won't get done, or they won't get done to the point where like you feel like maybe we left something on the table,
Or you burn out. If you're road managing and your social media marketing and you're expected to write and perform at like an impactful and an emotional level when you get to the gig, I mean, it'll burn most people. I think there are some people maybe who are really cut out for it, but maybe their genre isn't managing also like 3 to 5 people in a rock and roll band too, like maybe they're solo artists. So it's a little easier in some of those instances.
maybe they have combo amps and not full stacks.
Yeah, I mean, we're really making it as hard as possible sometimes.
Yeah,
So that everyone around with a bunch of fucking half stacks.
Well, and also there's the concept of like the artist's team, right? Where you have a manager, you have a booking agent, you have a publicist, you have a label, and they're all fulfilling these different roles. Where at the start, it's you, it's one person, or it's whoever in your band. You're dividing these things.
I dream for the day where I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, everyone does, right? But I guess just like playing all of the instruments, it's valuable to learn how to do those things, and then you can understand the role in the process, and also assess whether or not they're being done well by somebody you're paying.
He's gonna say, yeah, the dreaming of the day is just paying somebody because that comes out of our pocket if we're art performances or something that is, if we're talking about money anyway, but
for sure.
Usually when those things start really coming up.
So Hank, speaking of this, Male Gaze has a new EP coming out on the 28th. It's called Too Late Now. We're going to listen to a track off of it in a minute, but you also mentioned that you had shopped it around to some labels and
I did.
Had some interesting feedback. I'd love to hear more about that process.
Yeah, so I sent off, I basically asked all of my bandmates to give me a list of labels they'd be interested in. I think I overestimated how nerdy everybody else in the band is about that kind of thing, because they basically gave me like Sub Pop and like a couple other like like a Matador or whatever, like the big labels that everybody knows. And I was thinking like, oh no, like the small labels that put out your favorite band's first EP. And so but what I ended up doing was like collecting a list of like 25 labels with like contact information and then like what bands I liked from them, so I could like make specific references to those. And then I split it up over a couple of days, because like in the same way that writing press is like a nightmare for me, writing emails, like it takes a lot for me to do that, a lot of spoons. But yeah, I emailed all of them saying like, talking about who we were, what we were about, what the plans were for the EP, and then like what about their label in particular we thought we would mesh with. I got a lot of I got out of like the 20-ish but labels I actually ended up reaching out to, I think I got feedback from like 4, which is a lot better than I thought.
That's cool. You got a response?
Perfectly honest.
Hope to hear that.
Yeah. I was a lot. I got more responses than I expected. Like a few of them were just like, hey, this isn't quite the sound we're looking for, which is totally valid. Like, you have to believe in it to want to invest any amount of time into it. One of them was interested, but they didn't have the budget and their release schedule for it. but they offered to do press for us instead. And so we took them up on that, which was cool. So that's turned into a relationship that I'm very happy to foster as well, because like, you know, these are people who are interested in music and have put out records I enjoy, and now they're using their name to represent us to media outlets, and that's really cool. So
Mhm.
I'm happy to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's tough though. I think in the same way that like finding a job is a lot of getting references and like knowing people. I think
Mhm.
getting on a label is references and knowing people, or having those people at your shows and be interested in what you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unless you already have a following or already have some sort of like internet interest, like I think it, you know, I don't know how many like cold emails like result in actual deals at this point, but I was gonna try, right? Because like at the end of the day, like it doesn't hurt to try.
Yeah.
Like the Wayne Gretzky quote, something or other, you know?
You don't get on 100% of the labels you don't cold email.
That's right.
I
That's
think
right.
I think it's how it goes.
Absolutely true. I think, yeah, I think it's a really good practice just to kind of to be doing that, and I'm really glad somebody reached back out to you. I think that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Um,
Like it wasn't what I wanted, but in terms of like, you know, I wanted a deal, but like I'm happy that people responded in a way that was positive. And like, you know, we've gotten some weird, like interesting other opportunities because I reached out. Like I don't know if this is like even relevant, but like after I sent the email to Sub Pop, like we ended up on their Sub Pop suggest playlist on Spotify, and I'm like, I don't know
That's
if that's a
cool.
correlation or what, but like that's on there and that's cool.
Somebody opened your email and listened to it. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
what is somebody coming to your show at the end of the day, if they like it or not, it's up to them.
Yeah, I'm going with it. It's cool. I don't know what it means or how it happened, but like cool. Like it those two things happened within a month of each other, so it seems not unlikely. But
Seems
yeah.
seems relevant for sure.
Yeah, I mean I hope so. You know, it's in the same way that talking about like how managing a band is like a learning experience and like a lot of work. Like this release in particular, I've definitely taken a very different approach to how I've done other releases in terms of the effort I've put into pre-production and post-production for like marketing and preparing to go into the studio and things. Like we had a really different approach to this record with a lot more synthesizers and a lot more sounds. And so like I pre-produced the entire EP, including vocals and everything, and then had that as like our building blocks for our 2-week recording session. And we
Excellent.
were able to knock the whole thing out then, which was great. But like that was, you know, a 6 to 8 month process. And
Mhm.
then I mean, we had the whole thing done by June. Um, but I wanted to do this emailing thing and try and get like label support, and which turned into press support, which has turned into an aggressive release schedule. But you know, we're making it work. But like I'm approaching it in a really different way, in that I'm like being way more intentional about like what we release when and how we go about promoting that, which like includes putting out our first like produced music video that wasn't just like, you know, Ash and I making a thing just because we wanted to, like actually paying somebody to make a video. And that has like worked out really well. Like tons of people really engaged with that video. So, you know, I think like my takeaway from it is like, if you set out with like intent and a plan and are able to execute on that plan, like things will come of it. And maybe it won't be the exact things you were expecting, but like, I don't know, if you can feel like, you know, the effort ended up in a good place at the end of the day, then like it's worth it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely the level of intentionality in releasing music is, even if it doesn't hit the aspirations that you have in mind, you learn so much about the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also a differentiator. There are so many bands that finish a record, whether it's an EP or an album, and are like, all right, let's release this as fast as we possibly can. I always feel like when you do something like that, you're not giving the songs the chance to succeed in the world that they
Mm.
deserve.
I think you're undercutting yourself when you do it like that,
100%.
especially because like it's so expensive to record and to get things mastered properly. Like you have to, you're putting in so much money. If you just drop it with zero fanfare or preparation, then like you're kind of just, I don't know, in terms of like getting something back from it, like you're just kind of pissing that opportunity away in a lot of ways. And like that's like a tension within, a lot of bands, because I think like the people who have
Yeah.
that sort of management mindset, or who are taking that lead or have those aspirations, are like, well, no, we need to do X, Y, and Z. But then other members of the band might be like, well, no, we're impatient. We want to release it now. We haven't had anything
Yeah.
out in forever. Or we don't have anything out at all right now. Like, we need to do it. And I think like when you're talking about like the first EP versus like, like a couple of releases down the line, like the calculus is different. I think for like your first thing, like just getting it out there, because like Ian said, it's a business card. That's the world we live in now. People want to know
Yeah.
what a band sounds like before they go and see them.
They need they need content. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and like, I don't it seemed like you guys did this too, but for like me and for Ash and I, like when we decided to make the band, we did it because we had already written some songs. It's kind of like a joke to like process our breakup. And we decided the songs were good enough to make a band out of it. But like having the demos helped us get the rest of the members of the band. And so that was like our way of like getting people on board in the first place. And then we just released that as an album to get people like engaged with it in the first place. And like, I felt like that was a really, really good strategy. It wasn't like intentional at the outset. It just kind of worked out that way
yeah.
just because of how I write music, which is very much in the box and like demoing. But like that kind of thing is, for your first thing, having like that business card is really, really, really helpful for opening doors that wouldn't be open for somebody who doesn't have something out.
It's hard to get people to show up all the time, everywhere. So to ask somebody to come see my band play on a Tuesday night at this bar downtown, it's today's day and age, especially. It's like you can hear music anytime. So here, check out, go listen to this for free. And if you like it, we have shows. Come to the shows.
Yeah, it's demo content, right? Same, and that's how I think about social media too. Is like, yeah, you post a 30-second clip of your song with whatever video attached, and what you're doing is saying like, hey, here's a little taste of what I've got, and if you like it, there's plenty more. You can find it wherever you listen to music. It's very convenient for you.
Yeah.
But here's just a little bit of snippet. I'm not asking for a huge amount of your time. Like, I'm not asking you to sit down and listen to my 40-minute record right away. It's just, here's a little taste.
You should, because it's really good.
You should. It rips. But, here's a taste so you don't have to invest your time and energy before you know that you're gonna enjoy it. And especially when it comes to getting people out, like, I never feel like I'm competing with other shows in town. I feel like I'm competing with people's couches.
No kidding, right?
They are comfy.
I've tried to adopt this feeling of like, we're here because we want to be either way. And if you show up, you're going to want to be here too. But a marketing strategy for everything is really sunk in. What Hank was talking about is how to make it the best it can be with the things you have at your disposal, and having those conversations with your group beforehand. Even if that marketing strategy is, let's put this shit out on tape and then just hit the road. And that's your marketing strategy, but everybody believes in it. I think something will come of that.
Sure.
Whether it's 5 people across 6 states or whatever, or if it's, getting label support, and we're not going to do anything until we get label support, period. And that's your marketing strategy and everybody's behind it. That can work if you're patient enough and you work for what that strategy demands. I think it was really cool that you guys shopped it out and you made something, and it's like, here's what we got, in uncompromisingly our vision. Who's willing to support it?
Yeah.
You start those conversations with Sub Pop, and you start those conversations with Interscope or 31G or Kill Rock Stars, or whoever might be into it, and finding that.
Yeah, because I mean, half the battle is just like standing out a little bit, right? And I'm sure they get demos all the time. It's just like, okay, well, how do we make this as interesting as possible?
And we're here anyway,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, like,
is like we enjoy this, and we're gonna do this. And if you want to get on board and help us out, like,
I should circle back and say, like, that Tequila show that was for 5 people the day after, or like a week after the sold out show, was still very fun. Like, I think there's something to be said for playing to an empty room and being able to just go hog wild and not care how well you're playing if it's like you're having fun. Like, I definitely almost smashed my guitar into the ceiling of that place multiple times during that set, just because I was like, I'm just gonna go crazy here. Like, I don't care. Like,
things are like permitted, and you're like, fuck it. Like,
yeah. Yeah,
my
like I'm not
preferred.
trying to look cool anymore. Like I'm just having fun.
You
Yeah.
still want to give those 5 people a great experience too. It's not
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean to say that sincerely. Like, I might play to 5 people in 6 states, which is obviously the math on that is wacky, but yeah, we're here anyway, baby.
Well, let's listen to Soft and Quiet. This is the latest single off of the upcoming Male Gaze EP that is coming out with or without label support. I think without, but it's coming out anyway, and that's kind of the point. It's a great track. Here it is.
Be ready for something radically different from what you're used to, Ian.
And he's had a lot of stints. I apologize. My MacBook speaker got me really
So it's a little different.
That was incredible. I don't.
Thank you.
Man,
There's such a cinematic narrative movement throughout that song to me, both in the way the arrangement evolves, but even the way that the melody interacts with the evolving of the arrangement. And there's the points where, okay, something's going to change in the music. That means the melody is going to end on the one. And when the melody does that, when it's not quite ready for a big shift, it skips the one and it comes in the beat after. And it just really builds this dramatic feeling of movement throughout the whole song for me.
Well, it's funny you say theatrical because like when I first finished the initial demo for it, and like we had band coming over for practice. This was back when we practiced in my room, which was a time. They came in. I'm like, oh hey, I was working on this demo and I played it for them, and like I think it was Gavin was like, oh, are we an A24 band now? Like, what is this?
oh man, it does have a modern maybe definitely. I don't know. There's a progression. There's a progressiveness to it. There's there's so much I'm feeling and thinking about it on the first listen.
It's a really dense arrangement.
It is. I had these MacBook speakers. I'm pissed that I didn't get my headphones set up in time. I felt so rushed, having lots of technical issues. But, Zach was talking about sort of some of the arrangement and sort of anticipations or predictabilities or lack thereof. It's just something I think about frequently. But when a song subverts all of those thoughts, and I'm just listening to it and feeling it, it could be on the floor all the way through, but if it takes that chatter, my own production chatter out, it's a really well produced song. And the storytelling, like emotional, visceral, sonic storytelling, soft and quiet. The music is going softly and then aggressively, and the release, this tension that's just kind of like pulsating through, and the very end literally gave me chills.
Oh, thank you.
As I'm listening on my MacBook speakers.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to give a big shout out to Colin Weaver at Empty Lane for doing the recording with us.
Word.
I gave him a like monster list of like pre-bounced like backing tracks that we've been using that I've been using for the demos, and like he managed to massage it all into place after a lot of negotiating back and forth between us on what is important and what isn't important to the song, because I had my babies for sure, and he had a very fresh perspective.
That is seriously a good shout out, taking someone's well-crafted and maybe somewhat overwhelming files and turning it into the thing that they see in their head, feel in their heart.
Well, I like my dumbass didn't label them properly, so like I think we spent like 4 hours on the first day just like going through every file, just figuring like, what is this actually?
One, guitar 2, guitar 2B, and you're like, where does this go? And
well, and then I had like parallel processing tracks that were just named P1 and P2. like in my DAW it made sense, but like in the bounce files it was like yeah.
It's like, I guess I'm gonna have to just listen to that all the way through once to understand where it goes.
I was like, Colin, buddy, I'm so sorry, dude.
Well done, Colin.
Yeah, Colin's great. He'll be on this show soon, or we're making plans for that. But
good, yeah, they got a record coming out too for his band, Russian Blue.
The Russian Blue record, which I've been working with them on the release of that, and it's excellent. I listen to it all the time.
So good.
We played a show with them in Portland last month or around a month ago, and I felt like I was cheating because I knew all the words to all their unreleased songs.
Yeah,
and I was singing along, and nobody else could have that opportunity. So
I'm sure they loved that, though. I mean,
yeah, Colin's a ham for it for sure.
Oh yeah, 100% a ham for it.
I can't believe that this release, this EP that Male Gaze is doing, and with that song on it, like that's going to impact some people.
I hope so. I mean, so far it's gotten pretty good reception. Like that one actually is already out right now as the second single, and yeah, people seem to really dig it. And like, I don't know, I'm close to it, so like, it's hard for me to say what people are like reacting to in the moment.
Yeah,
or like what catches people's ears about it. But it is always cool because like all these songs with all the extra synths and stuff, like this is like a total departure for me from my production and my songwriting of like very much the power trio, guitar, bass, and drums. And like seeing The Armed live, they've been like a huge influence for me over the last few years. They have like really extreme experimental production, but they're like a hardcore band at their core.
I
And like
learned about the Armed following your page, actually.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
They when I saw them live, they just released Perfect Savior, which is a fantastic record, but they played it live and they had so many backing tracks going, but like it didn't take away from the intensity of the performance. And I was like, oh, okay, like so this is allowed in punk music. Like this is what we should, like we can do this. This is fine. And that was like a big switch for me because like growing up in the punk ethos of like metronomes are for suckers, multi-tracking guitars is for losers, like synthesizers are for nerds, like like getting out of that mind space was like it's been a challenge over the last like decade and a half. But like I feel free to write, like explore sonically places I wouldn't have before. And so this record so far getting like good reception from the singles has been like really affirming of like, oh, okay, no, like I'm still a punk, like it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I can have my twinkly synths.
And synthesizers are for nerds, but like non-derogatory.
Yeah. Good catch. But like,
I admire the use of the synths. I think it sounds great. I think it's working.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. It's a fun exploration because like for me it's all about, like when I started the band it was all about like making shoegazy tones and like playing with my guitar sound. And then like the longer we've been playing, the more I'm kind of chasing a different feeling, and that feeling is like how can I put on like the most engaging show possible.
Yeah.
And I personally, like my journey on that is less pedals, more jumping around and screaming. That's like where my journey is leading, and like having synthesizers to take some of the pressure off to fill out a space with a bunch of reverb and delay and like all these crazy pedal changes has been like really, really helpful for me to like to chase that feeling and be more expressive on stage in ways that it was hard to do when I was tied behind a pedal board and having to like tap dance like 5 different times on the song.
What happens when the shoegazer raises his head?
Apparently he loses all of his hair and starts screaming a lot, so
That's the circle of life right there.
That's fair. We all lose our hair and scream in the end.
Go out the way we came in.
Mm-hmm. Bald and screaming.
Yeah.
Guitar optional.
Encouraged,
but
but optional.
Maybe it's a backing track.
Well, one of the things about this release also, I love hearing you talk about how it's a step outside your comfort zone, but it's also, you mentioned at the beginning of this show that the Charleston was the place that fostered you as a young musician, and you got your start at, and you're having the release show for this EP at the Charleston.
Yeah.
And I love that connection, that through line.
The spot, man.
Yeah. Well, and it's on my birthday, which is wild.
That's
right.
right.
My birthday happened to fall on a Friday, and I was like, this was before we even finished the EP. I think I actually I put a hold on the date in like February, like so because I was just like, I'm getting it. I'm getting the date. And like my initial thought was like, I'm gonna make this a birthday party, and I'm gonna invite all of like my favorite local bands to come play. And so there's gonna be 6 of us on there, like bands from like Seattle and Bremerton that we've really, really connected with and like developed friendships with over the last couple of years. And then, the EP was done and we didn't get any traction on the label. So we were like, well, fuck it. We're just going to release it, and decided why not just piggyback it off the birthday show. And so, yeah, it is kind of fun to like full circle it in a lot of ways of just like, yeah, I mean, I've been playing there for like, 18 years or whatever. And it's cool to keep releasing records there and doing these cool shows there and being a part of that community that has grown and has honestly become, I feel like it has become safer in a lot of ways. Like when Ian and I were kids, like it was a sketchy place, the floors were sticky, and it was like, Callow Avenue felt really different in like, 2010. And then it was also hard to get people in the door if you weren't a metal band or like a hardcore band. That was like a really difficult thing. But like post COVID, especially the owners, Andy and Angel, have been like really reinvesting into the place, into like the sound system and the lights and the stage. And then like also post COVID, people just wanted to get out again and like go to shows again in ways that might not have been a big driving factor pre-COVID, because it just felt like, oh well, they're always going to be there, right? But like you lose it for a year, you want to get back out it. And yeah, I don't know, since I've moved back after COVID and playing shows there, it's been cool to see that there's like a large group of like young people, like high schoolers and up, hanging out there at every single show I go to. And like it has built into a pretty much built-in audience on any given Friday and Saturday night there in ways that it wasn't always the case. And it was the case at other venues when I was in high school for sure, but not there. But it is the only all ages venue in Kitsap, and one of three four all ages venues in like the region. The others being Real Art in Tacoma, the Vera Project in Seattle, and now Black Lodge in Seattle, now that they've been reopened with the support from Vera Project. But those are like the only like legit, like official all ages venues in the region at this point. And it's like, that's, you know, for kids in Kitsap and Bremerton, like that's the place to go and hang out. And that's rad. That's great. That's great. We need to protect those spaces, because like kids really need a third space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that we sorely lack in Portland, is really good all ages venues. Of course, now the Offbeat just opened. I think they just had their first show last weekend, and that's really, really cool.
And there's High Limit Room too. That's relatively new around here, Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Are those like I remember seeing something from like Bridge City. They're like teaming up with like Club 7 or Studio 77 something.
777 booking, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, I think they talked about teaming up to do some all ages venue.
No, the Offbeat is by an organization called Friends with Noise, which is an all ages nonprofit, or a nonprofit focusing on all ages punk. They do a lot of sound engineering, and they train kids to do sound engineering.
That's it. Yeah, that's the move.
Which is really cool. And I've interacted with them a couple of times at PDX Pop Now Fest, which I've volunteered at the last couple of years. And it's Friends with Noise running the sound booth for this festival in the middle of downtown Portland, and they've got young people who I imagine are mostly teens or maybe approaching 20, and they just do a great job. They've been trained well. It's really cool to invest in the scene that way as well.
Yeah, I think Vera, I don't know if Vera has kids running, like working the shows as much, but they do that kind of like mentorship program. There's classes there for learning how to run shows, like booking, promoting, screen printing flyers, whatever you want. Real Art in Tacoma also does that, but they actually have their students like working the shows too. So they'll have somebody there like overseeing it. But yeah, I mean they always have somebody there who's learning how to do it, working the shows. And I don't know, whenever I play there, I try and get, talk to them, and they're always so uncomfortable with like, adult bands being there. And like, I get it. Like we're scary. We're like big and hairy and sweaty and weird, but like, like, I don't know. It's cool. Like you make it welcoming for people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be the future sound guys that we're going to be, the boomers in the back of the room yelling at. So we gotta make nice with them now.
Yeah.
Well, friends, this has been so wonderful. I feel like we could continue this conversation for another 3 hours and not run out of things to talk about. But I'm feeling compelled to wrap us up. So I will say thank you to both of you for being here. And if you have any closing remarks, anything you want to promote coming up, now is the time.
Well, I just want to say thanks again for having me here to talk with you guys, to be witness to kind of the relationship you guys have had, I guess, performing together, getting to reminisce a bit about the past, and getting to listen to new music. Yeah, hearing your new song, Hank, really has had an impact on me this day. I'm gonna carry it with me, like, to the rest. And I'm going to pay some more attention to this EP coming out. I've been in production mode the last several months, and everything we talked about with comparisons and stuff, I've had my blinders on a lot to what other people are doing just to keep my head straight. But as we move out of that, hopefully for some releases next year, consuming more, seeing again what's going on out there, and I'll look forward to the EP eagerly.
Yeah, man, we should definitely stay in touch. Zach, thanks for having me. And I'm really glad that like we could make this connection because yeah, like, you know, like I was saying, Ian and I go back forever and I knew that you in particular would love his music. So I'm glad you guys were finally able to connect. And we've got that EP coming out on November 28th called Too Late Now. It's going to be on all the platforms. We're doing a release show at the Charleston on the same day with Banana Creatures, Torch from Seattle, not with the E, and the Bonnie Rubble, Kratorus, and No Floor from Tacoma. It's going to be a wild show. So definitely come through if you live in the area or if you're in Kitsap for the holidays, because it is the day after Thanksgiving. You know, swing through, get away from your family for a second, have fun.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great. And Hank's band is once again called Male Gaze. Ian's band is called Of Wires. They both have music available on, I imagine, every streaming platform known to anybody who is listening to this.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. I highly encourage Deezer or Bandcamp or something. I think of those as four accords.
Yeah. Bandcamp is certainly the way to go. It's less convenient than Spotify, but it does support the artists more directly.
Yeah.
True. With that, I will say thank you again to both of you. Thanks to everybody for listening.